Good evening and welcome to this week's of CopaLoadofRacing, where we're back in action after a wee week off last week. So fit and ready to go, looking ahead to Saturday's card of the international meeting at Cheltenham. Couple of decent races, well, not decent, but a couple of really good races to look at, including the international hurdle itself. We're going to get stuck into that. Looking back on last week's racing, and it was great to see Altior back winning the Tingle Creek at Sandown in an impressive performance under Nicol de Bonville, beating Undeso, who put up a great fight under Ruby Walsh, and it was a small but select field for that race, but certainly had some quality. You had So Royale there, San Calvados as well. Two horses stepping up from novice chasing, and certainly found it tough going against those two classy horses. But Altior, great to see that horse back and looks cert now. Obviously not certainty as such, but all roads lead to the Queen Mother Champion Chase, of course, for Altior, and it'll be exciting to see that. Of course, we're getting now close to Christmas, so after this Cheltenham meeting we'll obviously have Ascot next week, and then we break off, and the racing has a break over the Christmas, the run up to Christmas and Christmas Day of course itself, and then back on Boxing Day with a bang, with the Christmas festival getting underway at Kempton, and loads of other good races, Roland Berwick at Wetherby for example, I'll look to see about doing a preview in the run up to that. Maybe we'll look at getting something up on the vlog around about Christmas Eve or so with regards to that. But let's look ahead to tomorrow's racing. Going to look at three races at Cheltenham tomorrow, starting off with the 155, which is the Caspian Caviar Gold Cup handicap chase. This is a grade 3 race, of course, over 2.5 miles at on the new course, of course. On the new course, they are first racing. We're racing there today, and this, of course, will be the course that they'll use for the next few meetings, the New Year's Day meeting, and then, of course, for Trials Day at the end of January, and then the track gets a well-deserved break prior to the festival itself. Now, looking at this race, Rather Be is well fancied for Jeremy McGrath and Nicky Henderson in this one. He's not had a tough campaign so far this last season, and was going well in that Close Brothers handicap at the festival back in March, and was brought down in that race, of course, in the race back in November, should I say. So due to that fact, he's very well fancied in a lot of quarters to run on and do really well. Now, what you find with these races, these 2.5 mile handicap chases at Cheltenham stages, of course at the October meeting, and then of course following that up at the November meeting as well, there's quite a lot of familiarity with this race. Most of these runners just go on to this Gold Cup having raced in the previous 2.5 mile chases on the old course, and two of the horses that I'm highlighting fit into that category. Frodon, for Paul Nicholls, who I backed there, was, as I said back in the vlog for that race, was carrying a lot of weight. It's going to be still carrying 11-12 for this race as well, so not much change in that front, but really did run a belter of a race considering he did have that big weight to lump around. Not Bryony Frost, by the way, but just the weight, obviously, with it being a handicap. So chased home Baron Alco in that. Baron Alco, of course, as I said earlier, is in this race, having won the 2.5 mile chase back in November. But Frodon, you know, Baron Alco's went up in the weights after that victory. Frodon, who has, as I said back in the last vlog, previewing the November meeting at Cheltenham, has won and raced in better grading than this, and won the old Roan chase in October up at Aintree. So I think coming into this race has a decent enough chance to you know, handicaps were its 40 last season, around about this time, and you know, although the handicapper has assessed him quite high, he's just on that sense of not quite good enough in grade 1, grade 2 really. So it's going to be tough, because if he does win this, then the only other way for Paul Nicholls to go is back into graded company of that nature. But I think Frodon could go well, currently trading around about 10 to 1. The other one that always runs well in this race, and actually won it last year, was Guitar Pete. And this horse is one of those horses that you watch the race, and he's off the bridle pretty early on, getting pushed along. But that's not a worrying sign for this horse. It's just the way it runs. Last month in the handicap race that we keep referring back to, that was the same there. It was struggling, it looked like, but then ran on from the back and finished third. So again, has claims, can run in any ground, considering he ran well in quicker ground back in November, but has got some form on softer ground, which may be the case depending when this rain comes in tomorrow. So I think Guitar Pete merits a lot of respect as well. Round about 12 to 1 or 10s. You maybe can get 12s in some places, but most bookies are trading around about 10s. So I like both horses. If I was to see which one has more of a chance of winning, I would probably more say Frodon. I think Guitar Pete, with the nature of its style, needs quite a lot of the ones out front to maybe falter, tire, for him to get up and win. But he certainly has got a chance of a place without a doubt. Another one that could run well, a bigger price, is Full Glass for Alan King. Came back in a race at Haydock and unseated, 4 out, and looked to be in contention in that race. Remember, that was in the card where there was pretty stiff fences, as we know, at Haydock. So if can get to that form again and jumps better, obviously still a tough assignment jumping around Cheltenham, but ran well at Good Air back in the Grand National meeting as well. And if the ground is still on the decent side, he could run a pretty good race. He's running about 16 to 1 there, might be worth another each way punt. Right, moving on to the 305, it's the Unibet International Hurdle Grade 2. Some, not necessarily one that, if you're going for the champion hurdle, a lot of them target. You have some familiar faces in here, with the likes of Brain Power, Old Guard is in there. The new one is still kicking around there. Right. Looking at Somerville Boy for Noel Feely and Tom George at 11 to 4 at the moment. I'd backed it in the Fighting Fifth, and I just hoped that its novice form would come on into this season after it winning at the festival, but I thought was really poor in the Fighting Fifth. So to me, 11 to 4 back in that after that performance, and I know that was a grade 1, and this isn't as tough an assignment. and he's back at Cheltenham, although this is on the new course compared to winning on the old course. I just couldn't back that 11-4 after that run at Newcastle. There's to me, even to win this, although it's a step down in class, he's got to find a lot of form with regards to that. So the horse that I like is one that I backed each way in that particular race that Somerville Boy won last year, and it's Warren Greatrick's Western Rider, and I like it even more if the ground does go soft. It ran back in November in the Greatwood and ran on really well. Didn't give the jockey the easiest of times of it in that race, pulled pretty hard, but if he can be settled, get into a rhythm, he certainly has a chance. I think he's got a bit of class here to show. He's been running in class as more, you could see some really tough, like the Greatwood is a tough handicap to run in, but showed, I thought, back at the festival he'd finished 6th in that race, ran on well in that novice hurdle. So in the Supreme, I think he has a really good chance here of winning this at a bigger, well, he's 15-2 at the moment, and I think on the nose he could run a real big race for Richard Johnson and Warren Greatrix, that being Western Rider, who high hopes of last year to come on from that, and he's certainly one to watch this season. Right, moving on moving back, sorry, I went and jumped to the 305, the International. We'll move to the 230, which is Albert Bartlett Novices Hurdle, the old Bristol, this Grade 2 event here. I'll just say one horse, 11-4 for Paddy Brennan and Fergal O'Brien, that's Aye Charlie. Won when it should have won at Kelso, and it did win that race. Form from Aintree, ran reasonably well at Aintree, even though he was odds on favourite that day, and finished 2nd, but he's a classy sort, and I fancy Aye Charlie in the 230. And I'll pick out one race evening meeting for you, a horse to maybe put your money towards in the 6:15 at Wolverhampton tomorrow night, is El Hombre for Keith Dalglish and Callum Rodriguez. Keith's in good form at the moment, and El Hombre's in good form as well. Ran pretty well at Newcastle last time out, and Keith has a really good record at Wolverhampton with these horses, and I think El Hombre will run really well tomorrow night in the 6:15. That being, I'll just let you know, that being the Betway Heed here hunch handicap there. Over the extended 6 furlongs. Right, that's it for me this week for the CopaLoadofRacing vlog. I'll be back next Friday with the look ahead to Ascot's card there, and I think the Old Ladbroke Hurdle is one of the main features that we will be focusing on. But enjoy your racing. Hope this week brings us some luck. Dying on my arse here, to be honest, with some of the bets, and can hope that things can improve, especially in the run up to 2019. So enjoy your racing, folk. In fact, CopaLoadofRacing. See you next week.